Previously, Sunraku gets out of the convenience store and Rei suddenly stops him. He is sure they were in the same class last year, but he could not remember who she was. He thinks of many names but then gives up. Finally, he comes up with the right name. Rei tells him that Mana told her he has started playing SLF, and Sunraku confirms it. She says she has also been playing SLF and asks him to play with her. Now, Pencilgan confirms from Sunraku that he can defeat the unique monster Weatherman, the Tombguard. There will be only 3 of them against that monster. As Emul hears the name of the unique monster, Tombguard, her face color changes, and she acts like she has heard something horrible. While Sunraku confirms that he is ready to fight against Tombguard in 2 weeks, he wants to leave Emul behind. Suddenly, Emul shouts very loudly out of fear. Trembling and jumping with fear, she utters the magic word. A door to Rabituza appears. She immediately disappears into it, saying that she has to tell her father. Sunraku tries to stop her, but she does not look back. The scene shifts when Sunraku sits in front of Boss Rabituza. Emul has already told him that Sunraku and his 2 friends are going to fight Tombguard. But Boss warns him straight away that his opponent has lived longer than he had to and is already too strong for them. But Sunraku keeps thinking about the meaning of this warning. Whatever the boss warns him about does not bother him even a little, because he is already too excited for the upcoming fight before the summer update. He quietly thinks that instead of arguing with Boss, he must act calm. That is the only way he will be able to get more information about Tombguard. He remembers how in the trash games, he defeated Phalia. In the same way, he wants to manipulate Boss in his favor. Sunraku thinks that he will use the word Vorpal Soul in his conversation. That will evoke the fighter's emotions in Boss. The boss tells him that he is still an ordinary game player with little strength. But Sunraku shares that he will only support his friend, who has to fight against Tombguard. In this regard, he will be happy if Boss gives them any helpful information. Boss takes a deep breath and shares that he has not seen Tombguard in the longest time. So there is not much he can say about what is happening with Tombguard right now. Sunraku begins telling Boss what he knows about Tombguard. A group of players known as Peekers is using Tombguard for their malicious motives. Sunraku believes that if he fights against such a monster, there is a great chance that he will gain plenty of experience. He reveals that he knows all of this because his friend, who urged him to fight against Tombguard, is a part of the Peekers group. She genuinely dislikes Tombguard's existence and can do anything to defeat him. However, Boss is still not convinced, knowing they have no chance of winning against Tombguard. He scolds Sunraku, saying that he never taught him that a Vorpal Soul should get himself into trouble recklessly. He suggests that they only pick a fight where they have a fair chance of winning. But Sunraku insists that he has already made a promise to his friend and can't back out. Moreover, he is not afraid to die because it's his moral duty to help his friend, and he feels honor-bound in this case. As for Boss's concerns about his weakness, Sunraku shares that he has 14 days to learn and train himself. He will try his best to prepare to fight against this challenging monster. The word honor-bound captures Boss's attention, and suddenly, he begins talking about the nature of the unique monster Tombguard. Boss tells him that Tombguard is an emotionless living corpse who lost his own wife due to a lie. His body is practically immortal. The boss gets up from his seat and tells Sunraku that someone must punish him. However, he has no intention of fighting against them. If Sunraku wants to go against them, then he can go ahead. Afterward, he calls Sunraku to come after him because he wants to help him in this cause. They enter a forge. At the same time, Sunraku wins the badge for the best communication. Boss calls his daughter Bilek to come out as he has to talk about something. Bilek is a brown rabbit who is surprised to see Boss in the forge because he has not visited it for quite some time. Emul calls her sister, and Sunraku thinks that it is possible that each Rabituza citizen's father is Boss Vash. At the same time, Bilek confirms that Sunraku is the same guy about whom Emul told her. Emul introduces them, and Boss asks Sunraku to hand him over his Vorpal weapons. He gives both blades to Boss, who appreciates that they are in fine shape. Then he tells Bilek that he will bring these blades to their true form. They just need to sit back and watch the process. Boss shares that he wants someone to defeat that silly Tombguard. At this time, he could not bear to sit idle, so he decided to help them. Bilek gets too excited to hear that, and she runs to light the forge. In the meantime, Boss asks Sunraku to give him anything that could be valuable in the process of forging his blades into their true shape. Sunraku begins scrolling through his loot items. He sold most of the items that he gained from his own efforts. The one shell of quad beetles is still in his inventory, which he gives to Boss, while Bilek has lit the forge in the meantime. The boss accepts that shell and begins taking out his tools. Bilek tells Sunraku that he must be happy that Boss is wielding blades for him, because he rarely does this for anyone. It's unbelievable for Sunraku. Bilek shares that their brother stole the kingship, and she took over the forge. They are so proud that Boss is an excellent blacksmith, which is far too much for an ordinary craftsman. Thus, he rightly won the title of Divine Craftsman. Until then, Boss heated the blades in the fire. After heating, he put the blade on the table and began striking a hammer on it. With each strike, a bunch of magic circles rose and then absorbed into the blades. Sunraku was astonished and asked Bilek about it. She shared that her father ascends the blades in a special way. He reads the memories saved in the blades because the Vorpal blades have the ability to store memories. Since he has fought against the Lycagon monster, she is already excited to see what shape this blade will take. At the same time, they hear that Boss Vash is singing a song. Emul and Bilek hush him and they begin listening to him. He sings that a blade sings and a hammer dances, so the blade will tell what it actually is. In his song, he tells how they bring the metal from the ground and then forge it from iron to steel. It ultimately takes the shape of a blade that becomes a sword, shining in the darkness of night and dancing through the battlefields. Finally, Sunraku's Vorpal choppers are ready and Boss shows them. Now they will be referred to as Moonblades due to their unique crescent shape. Sunraku is happy to see two blades. Boss explains that each blade complements the function of the other. Also, Boss has not seen the blades changing shapes for quite a while, so that was surprising for him. Sunraku is so happy and begins checking his new blade's stats. He reads that the fusion gauge collects the points of each blade and compensates for the HP lost in a fight. That means they combine during a fight. With a lot of excitement, he picks up the blades to try them right away. But an error sign appears, telling Sunraku that his stats are not matching the requirements to use the Moonblade. He begins looking into the explanation, and after adding up his points, he calculates that he cannot use them until he is at least at level 50. The boss tells him to train himself immediately to start using it. Sunraku almost cries with immense impatience that he cannot wait to use them. After some time, Sunraku reaches the restaurant, the Serpent's Apple. He has to meet his friends Katsuo and Pensilgan to discuss their plan. He scratches his back weirdly and apologizes for joining them late. Pensilgan smashes her sandwich in her hand with anger, while Katsuo shouts with anger that they have been waiting for him for the last 3 hours. She does not accept his apology, so Sunraku tells them what he was doing was useful for their upcoming fight. He says that when he took the name of Tombguard in the unique scenario, quite an interesting discussion began in the unique scenario, so he had to stop and listen to that. That captures Katsuo and Pensilgan's attention, and they want to know the information. Sunraku has wrapped Emul secretly around his neck to hide her from his friends. Katsuo gets angry that he cannot forgive him just like that. Sunraku sarcastically points out Katsuo's weird avatar and his strange game names. Then he sits on the chair and begins to say that it was so hard to reach there as it was a secret place to gather for players. Pensilgan also shares that she took a long way away from the city's crowd to reach here. This place is a quiet one where they can easily talk. Sunraku tells him everything that Boss Vash told him about the Tombguard. Pensilgan gets worried to hear that the Tombguard is an undead monster, also known as a corpse living beyond its lifetime. That explains his weird movements. She was wrong about him all the time when she thought of Tombguard as a cyborg, but he is actually undead. Sunraku asks Pensilgan what their next move is. Pensilgan suddenly gets up from her seat, saying that she needs some time to think. Until then, they should go to the Iron Ruins and explore their talents. She gives a fishing rod and a map to each one of them and begins moving towards the door. Suddenly, she looks back and finds Emul hanging from Sunraku's neck. She sarcastically asks Sunraku if it's a new fashion to wrap puffy fur around the neck. Sunraku is still trying to hide Emul and says that it's a new fashion. Pensilgan had seen Emul, but she did not want to talk about it yet. She knows that Sunraku is trying to make them fools by keeping Emul along and hiding it from their eyes. After saying that she would meet at night, she goes out of the restaurant. Katsuo is already excited to explore the Iron Ruins. But before they leave, Sunraku begins searching for the ideal route towards the Iron Ruins, which is safe too. At the same time, Emul begins whispering to Sunraku that she has got an earache and she can't control herself in the hanging position anymore. Katsuo also starts looking around for the origin of the sound. Sunraku scratches his cheeks to see what he should do now. Katsuo shouts that his neck equipment, which he pointed to earlier, is talking. Sunraku permits Emul to get down on the floor. Suddenly, Emul falls down and Katsuo gets so excited to touch her, thinking that it's an NPC item. He pinches Emul's cheeks while she cries, telling him to let her go. On their way to the Iron Ruins, Katsuo keeps repeating that he wants a similar NPC item too. He is quite jealous that Sunraku collects all the lucky and unique stuff. Sunraku stops him and asks him to concentrate on the route because he wants to increase his stats soon to reach level 50. Only then will he be able to use his new Moonblade. Katsuo and Sunraku have been fighting alone in the SLF. It's their first time that they will get into any area and fight in a party. Suddenly, they see a big metal building in front of them with illuminating lines on it. The scene is unique from the rest of the game design. Sunraku identifies that they have reached the Iron Ruins of Divinity. And that's the end of the 11th episode of Shangri-La Frontier. Please comment and let me know which anime recap you'd like to see next. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, goodbye.